The words hung in the air like poison. "Get up and do something, Loretta. Stop sitting there like a lazy, useless old woman." My daughter-in-law Vanessa stood over me in my own living room, her finger pointed at my face like a weapon. I was 67 years old, sitting in the chair my late husband Jerome had built with his own hands, and this woman I had welcomed into my home 2 years ago, was screaming at me like I was nothing. My hands gripped the armrests. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. For 2 years, I had bitten my tongue. For 2 years, I had cooked and cleaned and swallowed every insult to keep the peace. For 2 years, I had made myself small in the house I built with my bare hands. But something inside me cracked that day. Something that had been bending and bending finally snapped. I stood up slowly, looking Vanessa dead in the eye. When I opened my mouth, the words that came out were so calm, so cold, that even I barely recognized my own voice. "Pack your things," I said. "You and Terrell have 48 hours to get out of my house." Vanessa's mouth dropped open. Behind her, my son Terrell stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes wide with shock. My 2 grandbabies, 8-year-old Zion and 6-year-old Amara, peeked around the corner with frightened faces. "You can't," Vanessa started. "This is my house," I said louder now. "My name on the deed. My sweat in these walls. And you will not disrespect me in it one more day." What happened next changed everything. But to understand how I got to that moment, you need to hear the whole story. You need to know how a woman who raised her son right, who worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over his head, who built something from nothing, ended up being treated like a servant in her own home. Before we continue, shout out to Patricia from Detroit. We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing. Let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Loretta Caldwell, and I am the daughter of sharecroppers who came north during the Great Migration. My parents taught me that a Black woman in America needs 3 things to survive: faith in God, belief in herself, and something that belongs to her that nobody can take away. For me, that something was my house. Jerome and I bought the land in 1985, back when this neighborhood was nothing but empty lots and dreams. We were young then, barely 30 years old, working ourselves to the bone. Jerome worked construction during the day and security at night. I cleaned houses for white families in the suburbs and took in sewing on the weekends. We saved every penny, every single one. In 1987, we started building. Jerome had learned carpentry from his father, and I learned right alongside him. We laid every brick ourselves. We hammered every nail. When we didn't have money for contractors, we watched YouTube videos. Well, back then it was library books and asking old-timers at the hardware store. It took us 4 years, but in 1991 we moved into our house. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen big enough for Sunday dinners, and a front porch where we could watch the neighborhood grow. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Truly ours. Terrell was born in 1992, right there in that house. I labored for 16 hours in our bedroom while Jerome held my hand and prayed. When that baby finally came into the world, screaming and perfect, I remember thinking, this is what we built it for. This is legacy. We raised Terrell with love and discipline. Church every Sunday at Greater Hope Baptist. Family dinners every night. No exceptions. Respect for elders. Respect for yourself. Respect for what we had, because we knew how hard it was to get it. Jerome died of a heart attack in 2019. He was 61 years old, gone too soon, taken from me on a Tuesday morning while trimming the hedges in our front yard. One moment he was there, singing along to the Temptations on his radio. The next moment he was on the ground, and I was screaming for help that came too late. The grief nearly killed me too. For months, I walked through that house like a ghost. Every corner held a memory. The kitchen where Jerome would dance with me while we cooked. The porch where we'd sit and talk about our dreams. the bedroom where we'd held each other for 34 years. Terrell came to visit every week after his father died. He'd bring his wife Vanessa and the babies, and for a few hours, the house would feel alive again. Zion would run around the backyard. Amara would help me bake cookies. Terrell would fix little things around the house that were breaking down, and I'd feel grateful that Jerome had raised such a good man. That's what I thought then. That my son was a good man. In the summer of 2022, Terrell showed up without calling first. He looked tired, stressed. Vanessa stayed in the car with the kids while he sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Jerome and I had made so many decisions about our life. "Mama," he said, "I need to ask you something." I poured him sweet tea and waited. "Vanessa lost her job 3 months ago," he said, "and my hours got cut. We're behind on rent. The landlord's about to evict us." My heart broke for him. My baby, struggling, trying to provide for his family the way his father had taught him. "How much do you need?" I asked, already calculating what I had in savings. "Mama, it's more than that." He reached across the table and took my hand. "This house is so big, and you're here all alone. What if we moved in with you, just for a little while, until we get back on our feet?" I should have thought longer. I should have set boundaries, made rules, protected myself. But all I could see was my son struggling, my grandbabies without a home, and all this empty space where Jerome used to be. "Of course," I said. "Family helps family." Terrell smiled so big. He hugged me tight and said, "Thank you, Mama. We'll help you out, keep you company. It'll be good for all of us." That was August 2022. They moved in 3 days later. At first, everything seemed fine. Better than fine, even. The house was full of life again. Zion and Amara brought joy into the rooms that had been silent too long. Vanessa cooked dinner sometimes, and Terrell mowed the lawn on Saturdays. I gave them the master bedroom. "You've got the kids," I told Terrell. "You need the space more than me. I'll take the small bedroom." I moved into what used to be Terrell's childhood room, the smallest bedroom in the house. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it didn't matter. The first sign of trouble came about a month in. I was cooking Sunday dinner like I always did: fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread. The whole house smelled like love. I'd invited some folks from church to come over, like Jerome and I used to do every month. Vanessa came into the kitchen and looked at all the food I was preparing. "Who's all this for?" she asked. "Church friends," I said, smiling. "The Johnsons, Sister Ruth, Brother Charles." "Loretta, you should have asked us first," Vanessa interrupted. "This is a lot of people to have in the house." I turned from the stove, confused. "Asked you?" "We live here now," she said. "You can't just invite a bunch of random people without checking with us." Random people. Sister Ruth had held my hand through Jerome's funeral day. The Johnsons had brought me meals for weeks when I couldn't bring myself to cook. "This is my house," I said gently. "I've been having Sunday dinners here for 30 years. Vanessa rolled her eyes and walked out. That dinner was uncomfortable. Vanessa stayed in the bedroom. Terrell made excuses for her, said she had a headache. My church friends kept glancing at each other, sensing the tension. After that day, I stopped inviting people over. Then the criticism started. "Loretta, why do you cook so much food? It's wasteful." "Loretta, you're watching TV too loud. The kids are trying to sleep." It was 7 in the evening. "Loretta, can you watch the kids? We're going out." "No, please. No, thank you." "Loretta, you left dishes in the sink." They were Vanessa's dishes. I had washed mine. Slowly, bit by bit, I became smaller in my own home. Terrell never said much. When I tried to talk to him, he'd say, "Mama, Vanessa's just stressed. Be patient with her. We're all adjusting." So I adjusted. I adjusted so much I barely recognized myself. By the end of the first year, I was cooking every meal, cleaning the entire house, watching the kids whenever they needed, and staying in my small bedroom most of the time to avoid conflict. I stopped going to my card game nights with my friends from church. I stopped having my sister over for coffee. I stopped playing my gospel music on Sunday mornings because Vanessa said it was too early. I became a shadow in the house Jerome and I had built with our hands. My friends noticed. Sister Ruth called me one day and said, "Loretta, we miss you at church events. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired." "You don't sound fine," she said. "When's the last time you left that house?" I couldn't remember. "Come to lunch with us this week," Sister Ruth insisted. "Just the church ladies. We need to see your face." I wanted to say yes, but then Vanessa would need me to watch the kids or cook dinner or do laundry or something. There was always something. "I'll try," I said. I never went. The breaking point started 3 weeks ago. I was dusting the living room, my living room, though it no longer felt like mine, when I heard Vanessa on the phone in the kitchen. She didn't know I was nearby. "Girl, I'm so over it," Vanessa said. "Living with Terrell's mama is driving me crazy. She's always here, always in the way." My hand froze on the picture frame I was holding. It was a photo of Jerome and me on our wedding day. "I know. Right?" Vanessa continued. "She just sits around all day doing nothing, then has the nerve to act like this is still her house." My chest felt tight. "Terrell won't do anything about it," Vanessa said. "He's too weak. But I'm working on a plan. There's this nursing home about 40 minutes away. I've been looking into it. Once we get her out of here, we can finally have our own space. And this house? Girl, this house will be ours. All ours." The picture frame slipped from my hands and shattered on the floor. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. "Let me call you back," she said into the phone. She looked at me with cold eyes. "You need to be more careful, Loretta. That was a nice frame." She walked away like nothing had happened. I stood there among the broken glass, shaking. My house. The house Jerome and I built. The house I had opened to my son in his time of need. She wanted to put me in a nursing home and take it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my small bedroom, my childhood son's bedroom, and stared at the ceiling. This was wrong. All of this was wrong. But what could I do? This was my son. These were my grandbabies. The next morning, I went to make breakfast like always. Vanessa came into the kitchen, barely looked at me, and said, "Loretta, we're out of coffee. Can you go to the store?" "No, please. No, thank you. Just an order." I felt something shift inside me, but I pushed it down. "Sure," I said quietly. That afternoon, Vanessa needed me to watch the kids. That evening, she complained that I'd folded the laundry wrong. The next day, she criticized the way I cleaned the bathroom. Every day, another cut. Another way of making me feel small and useless in my own home. Then came yesterday, the day that changed everything. I was sitting in Jerome's chair, just sitting there for a moment of peace. I was exhausted. My back hurt from scrubbing floors. My hands ached from washing dishes 3 times a day. I just wanted to rest for 5 minutes in the chair my husband built. Vanessa stormed into the living room. "The kitchen's a mess, Loretta. Are you going to clean it or what?" "I will," I said. "I just need a minute." "A minute?" Vanessa's voice rose. "You've been sitting there for 20 minutes. All you do is sit around." "Vanessa, please." "No!" She moved closer, her face twisted with anger. "I'm tired of this. You're lazy, you're useless, you're in the way." That's when she said it. That's when she pointed her finger in my face and screamed, "Get up and do something, Loretta. Stop sitting there like a lazy, useless old woman." And that's when I stood up. That's when something inside me that had been bending finally snapped. That's when I told her to pack her things and get out of my house. The silence that followed was deafening. Terrell finally found his voice. Mama, you can't be serious. I turned to my son, this man I had raised, who had stood by and watched his wife disrespect me for 2 years. I am dead serious, I said. You have 48 hours. Mama, where will we go? Terrell asked. The kids. You should have thought about the kids before you let your wife treat me this way in my own home, I said. Before you let her plan to put me in a nursing home and steal my house. Vanessa's face went white. You heard that? I heard everything, I said. Now get out. We're not going anywhere, Vanessa shouted. You can't just kick us out. I walked to my bedroom, my hands shaking, and pulled out the metal lockbox from under my bed. Inside was every important document I owned. I grabbed the house deed and walked back to the living room. This is my name on this deed, I said, holding it up. Mine and Jerome's, not yours. You have no claim to this house, none. Mama, please, Terrell said. Let's just calm down and talk about this. I've been calm for 2 years, I said. I've been swallowing disrespect and making myself invisible in my own home for 2 years. I'm done talking. Vanessa's face twisted with rage. You ungrateful old... Say one more word, I interrupted, my voice like steel. And I'll call the police right now for trespassing. She closed her mouth, but her eyes promised war. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time since they'd moved in. I lay in bed, my whole body shaking, wondering what I had just done, wondering if I'd just destroyed my relationship with my son forever. But then, I thought about Jerome. I thought about the house we built together. I thought about the woman I used to be before I let fear make me small. And I knew, deep in my bones, that I had done the right thing. The next morning, I woke up to find my car tires slashed. I stood in my driveway at 6 a.m, staring at my car. All 4 tires were flat, slashed clean through. The rubber hung in strips like wounds. My hands trembled as I pulled my phone from my robe pocket. I knew who did this. I knew exactly who did this. Through the front window, I could see Vanessa watching me, her arms crossed, a small smile on her face. When our eyes met, she didn't look away. She wanted me to know. She wanted me to feel powerless. But I wasn't powerless. Not anymore. I called Sister Ruth first. Loretta, it's 6 a.m, honey. What's wrong? I told her everything. About the last 2 years, about Vanessa's plan, about telling them to leave, about my tires. Sister Ruth was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I'm on my way. Don't you move. And Loretta, you should have called us a long time ago. Within an hour, my driveway was full. Sister Ruth arrived first, followed by the Johnsons, Brother Charles, and 5 other members from Greater Hope Baptist. They stood around my car, looking at the slashed tires, their faces hard with anger. This is criminal destruction of property, Brother Charles said. He was a retired police officer, a big man with a gentle voice. You need to file a report, Sister Loretta. And get a lawyer, Mrs. Johnson added. Today, right now. I looked at these people, my church family, who had come running the moment I called. Tears burned my eyes. I don't know if I can afford... My nephew is a lawyer, Sister Ruth interrupted. Estate law, property disputes, all that. He owes me about 100 favors. He'll see you this morning. That's when Terrell came outside. He looked at all the people in the driveway, and his face went pale. Mama, what's going on? What's going on? Sister Ruth said before I could answer. Is that your mama's car got vandalized in her own driveway. What do you know about that? Terrell? I didn't, Terrell stammered. Where's your wife? Brother Charles asked, his voice calm but firm. Terrell looked back at the house. Through the window, Vanessa had disappeared. You need to get control of your household, young man, Mrs. Johnson said. Your mama took you in when you needed help, and this is how you repay her? It's not like that, Terrell said weakly. Then what's it like? Sister Ruth asked. Because from where we're standing, it looks like you and your wife have been taking advantage of a woman who raised you better than this." Terrell couldn't meet anyone's eyes. He looked at me, and for a moment, I saw my little boy again. The child I had rocked to sleep. The teenager I had helped with homework. The young man who had cried in my arms when his father died. "Mama, I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't know it was this bad. I didn't know she—" He gestured at the car. "But you knew she was disrespecting me," I said. "You knew, and you did nothing." He had no answer for that. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a law office downtown. Sister Ruth's nephew, attorney Malcolm Henderson, was a sharp young man in his early 30s with kind eyes and a serious manner. He listened to my whole story without interrupting. Then he pulled out a legal pad and started asking questions. "The house is in your name only?" "Mine and Jerome's. After he died, it transferred to me." "No other names on the deed? Your son was never added?" "Never." "Good. That makes this simpler." Malcolm leaned forward. "Mrs. Caldwell, legally speaking, you have every right to remove them from your property. They're not tenants with a lease. They're guests who have overstayed their welcome." "But they're my family," I said. "I understand that," Malcolm said gently. "But family doesn't give them the right to mistreat you or destroy your property. Now here's what we're going to do." He explained the legal process. First, a formal eviction notice delivered by a process server. Then, if they didn't leave voluntarily, we'd file for a court order. He also advised me to document everything, every threat, every act of vandalism, every witness. "This might get ugly," Malcolm warned. "When people feel entitled to something that isn't theirs, they fight hard." "I know," I said. "I'm ready." Malcolm smiled. "I believe you are. And Mrs. Caldwell, my aunt told me about the tires. File that police report today. Start creating a paper trail." I did exactly that. Brother Charles went with me to the police station, where I filed a report about the vandalized car. The officer who took my statement was a young black woman who looked at me with understanding eyes. "Ma'am, do you feel safe in your home?" she asked. The question hit me hard. Did I feel safe in the house I built? "I don't know," I admitted. "If you need protection, we can provide extra patrols in your neighborhood," she said. "And if anything else happens, anything at all, you call 911 immediately." That afternoon, a process server arrived at my house with the eviction notice. I watched from Sister Ruth's car parked across the street. We had decided it was better if I wasn't there when the papers were delivered. Terrell answered the door. The server handed him the envelope and walked away. Through the window, I saw Terrell open it. I saw his face change. Then Vanessa appeared, snatched the paper from his hands and started screaming. Even from across the street, I could hear her rage. "She thinks she's going to kick us out?" Vanessa shouted. "She's out of her mind. This is our house now." My phone rang. It was Terrell. "Don't answer it," Sister Ruth advised. I answered it anyway. "Mama, what have you done?" Terrell's voice was panicked. "A legal eviction notice? You're really taking us to court?" "I gave you 48 hours to leave voluntarily," I said, my voice steady. "That time is almost up. You made your choice." "The kids, Mama! Where are we supposed to go with the kids?" "The same place you would have gone if you hadn't moved in with me 2 years ago," I said. "You're a grown man, Terrell. You figure it out." "I can't believe you're doing this to your own family." Something in his tone made my grief turn to anger. "I can't believe you let your wife treat me like garbage in my own home for 2 years. I can't believe you stood by while she planned to put me in a nursing home and steal my house. That's what I can't believe, Terrell." "Mama..." "The eviction stands. You have until tomorrow evening. After that, the police will remove you." I hung up before he could respond. Sister Ruth squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing." "Then why does it hurt so much?" I whispered. Because you're a mother, she said. It's supposed to hurt. But sometimes love means setting boundaries, even when it breaks your heart. That night, I stayed at Sister Ruth's house. I didn't want to be there when the deadline passed. I didn't want to see the police remove my son and grandchildren from my home. But at 8 o'clock that evening, my phone rang. It was my neighbor, Mr. Davis, an older gentleman who lived 3 houses down. "Miss Loretta, you need to see this," he said. "See what?" "Your house. They're loading up a truck." My heart jumped. "They're leaving?" "More than that," Mr. Davis said, his voice tight with anger. "They're taking your things." Sister Ruth drove me home at top speed. When we pulled up, there was a U-Haul truck in my driveway. Terrell and Vanessa were loading furniture, boxes, and bags. My furniture, my belongings. I jumped out of the car and ran to the truck. Inside, I saw my good dishes, the china set Jerome had bought me for our 20th anniversary. I saw my mother's quilt. I saw photo albums and my jewelry box. "What are you doing?" I shouted. Vanessa appeared from the house carrying a lamp, my lamp, from my bedroom. "We're leaving, just like you wanted," she said with a cruel smile. "And we're taking what's ours." "That's not yours. None of that is yours." "We lived here for 2 years," Vanessa said. "We deserve something for all the time we wasted taking care of you." The lie was so bold, so shameless, I almost couldn't speak. "Taking care of me?" I said. "I cooked every meal. I cleaned every room. I watched your children." Terrell came out carrying a box. When he saw me, he looked away, ashamed. "Terrell, stop this right now," I said. "That's theft. That's actual theft." "Mama, we need these things," he said quietly. "We're starting over. We have nothing." "You have nothing because you managed your money poorly," I said. "That doesn't give you the right to steal from me." Sister Ruth was already on the phone with the police. Within 10 minutes, 2 squad cars pulled up. The same officer who had taken my report about the tires stepped out. She looked at the truck, looked at Vanessa and Terrell, and immediately understood the situation. "Everyone stop what you're doing," she ordered. "This is family business," Vanessa said. "They're gifts. She gave us these things." "I gave you nothing," I said. "Officer, they're stealing my belongings." The officer looked at Terrell. "Sir, is your name on the deed to this house?" "No, but is your name on any receipts or proof of purchase for these items?" Terrell was silent. The officer turned to Vanessa. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to unload everything from that truck right now. Anything that doesn't belong to you goes back in the house." "This is ridiculous!" Vanessa shouted. "She's just a bitter old woman trying to—" "Ma'am, you can comply, or I can arrest you for theft right now," the officer interrupted. "Your choice." It took an hour to unload the truck. Every box, every piece of furniture, every item they had tried to steal. I stood there watching, my church family around me, as Terrell and Vanessa were forced to return everything. Vanessa glared at me with pure hatred. "You're going to regret this," she hissed, as she carried my mother's quilt back inside. "You're going to die alone in this house with nobody who loves you." "Better alone than abused," I said quietly. When the truck was empty, the officer turned to Terrell and Vanessa. "You need to leave this property now. You have until midnight tomorrow to remove your personal belongings only. After that, anything left behind becomes the property owner's." "Where are we supposed to sleep tonight?" Terrell asked. "That's not my problem," the officer said, "but it's not going to be here." I watched my son load his wife and children into their car. Little Zion was crying. Amara looked confused and scared. My heart broke for them, but I knew this wasn't my fault. Their parents had created this situation. As they drove away, Vanessa rolled down her window and shouted, "This isn't over, old woman, you hear me? This isn't over." The police stayed until they were gone. The officer gave me her card. Keep this. If they come back and cause any trouble, you call immediately." After everyone left, Sister Ruth helped me check the house. Some things were damaged. Vanessa had deliberately broken several picture frames. The kitchen was trashed. But the important things, the deed, my documents, my memories, were safe. I stood in the living room, in the house Jerome and I built, and felt a strange mixture of relief and grief. I had won this battle, but at what cost? That night, as I lay in my own bed, back in the master bedroom where I belonged, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from a number I didn't recognize. The message said, "Check your mailbox." My blood ran cold. I got up, turned on all the lights, and looked out the front window. Nothing. No cars. No people. But there was something in the mailbox. I called Brother Charles, who came over immediately. He checked the mailbox for me while I watched from the porch. Inside was an envelope. No stamp, no return address. Just my name written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Brother Charles opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper. It was a forged deed to my house, with Terrell's name listed as the owner, and a note that said, "See you in court." I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the forged deed, my mind racing. They had actually created a fake document to try to steal my house. My house. The house Jerome and I built with our own hands. At 7 in the morning, I called attorney Malcolm Henderson. He told me to bring the forged document to his office immediately. 2 hours later, I sat across from him as he examined the paper with a magnifying glass. "This is poorly done," he said. "The signature is wrong. The notary stamp is fake. The paper stock is different from official county documents." He looked up at me with fierce determination. "Mrs. Caldwell, they just handed us the evidence we need to destroy them in court." "What do you mean?" "Forgery is a felony. Creating a fake deed to commit fraud is serious criminal activity. They're not just fighting an eviction anymore. They could go to prison." My stomach twisted. Terrell could go to prison? Malcolm's expression softened. "That depends on who actually created this document. But Mrs. Caldwell, you need to understand something. They're not playing games. They're coming after your home with everything they have. You need to fight back just as hard." He was right. I had been thinking of this as a family dispute, but Vanessa had turned it into war. "What do we do?" I asked. "First, we take this to the police, file another report, then we prepare for court. The eviction hearing is in 1 week. We're going to make sure the judge sees exactly who we're dealing with." Over the next few days, my church family rallied around me like an army. Sister Ruth organized a rotation so I was never alone in the house. Brother Charles installed security cameras around the property. Mrs. Johnson helped me document every single item Terrell and Vanessa had tried to steal, with photographs and receipts. And Malcolm worked like a man possessed, building our case. 3 days before the hearing, Terrell called me. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mama?" His voice was broken. "Mama, please, can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about, Terrell." "Mama, I didn't know about the fake deed. I swear I didn't know." That was all Vanessa. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe my son wasn't capable of forgery. "Then why didn't you stop her from stealing my things?" I asked. "Why didn't you stop her from treating me like garbage for 2 years?" "I was weak," he said, and I heard him crying. "I was so afraid of losing her, of breaking up my family, that I let her do terrible things. Mama, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix this, Terrell." "I know. But Mama, please. The kids, they're asking for you every day. Amara cries at night. Zion doesn't understand why Grandma doesn't love them anymore." The words hit me like a physical blow. "I love those babies with everything in me." "Then drop the court case," Terrell pleaded. "Let us come home. I'll control Vanessa. I promise. It'll be different." "No," I said firmly. "It won't be different, And I'm not dropping anything. I'll see you in court, Terrell. I hung up, my hands shaking. Sister Ruth, who had been listening, pulled me into a hug. "You're doing the right thing," she whispered, "even when it hurts." The night before the hearing, I couldn't eat. I stood in my bedroom, the bedroom Jerome and I had shared, and talked to him like he was still there. "I hope I'm doing right," I whispered. "I hope you'd be proud of me, standing up for what we built together. I miss you so much, Jerome. I wish you were here to tell me what to do." The wind chimes on the porch, the ones Jerome had made, sang softly in the night breeze, and I felt somehow that he was telling me to be strong. The courthouse was packed. I arrived with Malcolm, Sister Ruth, Brother Charles, and a dozen other members from Greater Hope Baptist. They filled the benches behind me, a wall of support. On the other side, Terrell and Vanessa sat with a lawyer who looked barely out of law school. Vanessa wore a conservative dress and had her hair pulled back, trying to look respectable. Terrell looked sick. The judge was a black woman in her 50s, Judge Patricia Williams. She had a reputation for being fair but firm. Malcolm presented our case first. He showed the original deed with mine and Jerome's names. He showed my identification, my late husband's death certificate, the clear chain of ownership. He presented the eviction notice, properly served. "Your Honor, this is a straightforward case," Malcolm said. "Mrs. Caldwell owns the property. The defendants are guests who have refused to leave. But it's worse than that." He pulled out the forged deed. "The defendants attempted to commit fraud by creating a false deed, claiming ownership of my client's property. We have witness statements that the defendant Vanessa Williams explicitly stated her intention to force Mrs. Caldwell into a nursing home and take the house. We have evidence of property destruction, attempted theft, and harassment." The judge examined the forged document carefully. Her expression grew darker. Vanessa's lawyer stood up, sweating. "Your Honor, my clients have been living in this home for 2 years, contributing to its upkeep." "Objection," Malcolm interrupted. "The defendants contributed nothing to the mortgage, property taxes, or maintenance. Mrs. Caldwell has receipts for every expense. The defendants were permitted to stay as guests during financial hardship." "Your Honor," Vanessa's lawyer tried again, "my client is a mother of 2 young children. Eviction would place these children in a precarious position. The welfare of the children is the responsibility of their parents," Malcolm said sharply. "The parents who attempted to steal from and defraud an elderly woman who opened her home to them in their time of need." Judge Williams raised her hand for silence. She looked directly at Terrell and Vanessa. "Mr. Williams, Mrs. Williams, stand up." They stood, Vanessa with her chin raised defiantly, Terrell with his head down. "I've reviewed the evidence," Judge Williams said. "The forged deed, the witness statements, the police reports. This is one of the most disturbing cases of elder abuse and fraud I've seen in my courtroom." Vanessa's face went pale. "Your Honor," her lawyer started. "I'm not finished," the judge said coldly. "Mrs. Vanessa Williams, did you create this forged document?" Vanessa looked at her lawyer, who whispered urgently to her. She turned back to the judge. "I was trying to protect my family," Vanessa said. "That old woman was going to throw us out on the street with nowhere to go." "That old woman owns the property and has every legal right to decide who lives there," Judge Williams said, "and you responded by committing fraud, a felony offense." Vanessa's mask finally cracked. "She deserved it. We took care of her. We gave her purpose. Without us, she's just a lonely old woman waiting to die." The courtroom gasped. Behind me, I heard Sister Ruth say, "Oh, she did not just—" Judge Williams's eyes flashed with anger. "Mrs. Williams, you are in contempt of court. Bailiff, remove her." "What? No!" Vanessa shrieked as the bailiff approached. "This is her fault. She's vindictive and bitter and—" "Remove her now," the judge ordered. As Vanessa was escorted out, still screaming, the judge turned to Terrell. He looked like he might faint. "Mr. Williams, what is your part in this?" "Your Honor, Terrell's voice cracked. I didn't create the fake deed. I didn't know about it until my mother showed up with the police, but I didn't stop my wife from mistreating my mother. I stood by and let it happen. I'm guilty of that." It was the first honest thing he'd said in 2 years. Judge Williams was quiet for a moment. "At least you have the decency to be honest now. But honesty after the fact doesn't erase the harm done." She looked at her papers, then at me. "Mrs. Caldwell, I want to ask you something directly. What outcome are you seeking here?" Malcolm started to speak, but the judge held up her hand. "I want to hear from Mrs. Caldwell herself." I stood up, my legs shaking. I looked at my son, then at the judge. "Your Honor, I want my home back. I want my peace back. I want to be able to live in the house my husband and I built without fear." My voice grew stronger. For 2 years, I made myself small. I swallowed disrespect. I let them treat me like a servant in my own home because I was afraid of losing my family. But I've learned something. Family is supposed to build you up, not tear you down. And if standing up for myself means I lose my son, then I've already lost him anyway. The judge nodded slowly. "Mrs. Caldwell, you are a woman of remarkable strength." She turned back to Terrell. "Here's my ruling. Mrs. Loretta Caldwell is the sole legal owner of the property in question. The defendants are hereby ordered to vacate the premises within 72 hours. Any property left behind will be forfeit. Any attempt to enter the property after that time will result in arrest for trespassing." "Your Honor, what about my children?" Terrell asked desperately. "Where will we go?" "That is your responsibility as a parent," Judge Williams said. "You should have considered that before participating in the mistreatment of your mother. However, because I am concerned about the welfare of the minor children, I'm ordering the following. Mrs. Caldwell will have the right to petition for grandparent visitation if she chooses. The children should not be punished for their parents' failures." She looked down at more papers. "Regarding the forged deed, I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. Mrs. Vanessa Williams will likely face felony charges." Terrell's face crumbled. "Your Honor, please." "This court is adjourned." Judge Williams brought down her gavel. It was over. I had won. Malcolm hugged me. Sister Ruth and the church members surrounded me, praising God, celebrating the victory. But as I watched Terrell walk out of the courtroom, his shoulders shaking with sobs, I felt no joy. Only a deep, profound sadness for what we had lost. 3 days later, with Brother Charles and Malcolm present as witnesses, Terrell came to collect the last of their belongings. Vanessa wasn't there. She'd been arrested on the forgery charges and was awaiting trial. Terrell could barely look at me. He loaded boxes into his car silently. When he was done, he stood on the porch his father had built, and finally met my eyes. "Mama, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know something. Everything you said in court was right. I let fear make me weak. I let Vanessa control everything because I was terrified of being alone, of failing as a husband and father, and in trying to keep my family together, I destroyed the family I came from." "Where will you go?" I asked quietly. "My friend Marcus is letting us stay with him until I figure things out. I got my hours increased at work. I'm going to provide for my kids properly this time." He paused. "The kids ask about you every day." My heart ached. I miss them terribly. "The judge said you could petition for visitation." "I will, because they're innocent in all this. They deserve to know their grandmother." Terrell nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Mama, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but one day, maybe years from now, do you think you could ever forgive me?" I thought about it. About Jerome, who always believed in second chances. About the church teachings of forgiveness and redemption. About the fact that Terrell was still my son, no matter what. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I hope so, for both our sakes." He hugged me then, and I let him. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a door left open, just a crack. After he left, I stood in my house, truly my house again, and breathed deeply. The silence was profound, but it wasn't the lonely silence I'd felt after Jerome died. It was peaceful. It was mine. Over the next few months, my life transformed. I started going back to church events, to card game nights with my friends. I joined a book club. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since Jerome died. I filled my walls with my own art instead of hiding in a small bedroom. I filed for grandparent visitation and was granted supervised visits with Zion and Amara every other weekend. The first time I saw them after the trial, they ran into my arms crying, "Grandma, we missed you so much." We spent the day baking cookies, reading stories, playing in the backyard. I explained in simple terms they could understand that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and families need space to heal. "But you still love us?" Amara asked, her little face worried. "Always," I promised. Nothing could ever change that. Vanessa was eventually convicted of forgery and fraud. She served 9 months in prison. When she got out, she and Terrell divorced. Last I heard, she moved to another state. Terrell and I speak now carefully. He's in therapy, working on himself, being a better father. He apologized again, properly this time, and I told him what I told him on the porch that day. I hope for forgiveness, but it would take time. "I understand, Mama," he said. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it." One Sunday afternoon, a year after the trial, I sat on my front porch in the chair Jerome built. Sister Ruth was there, Mrs. Johnson too, and a few other friends from church. We were drinking sweet tea and laughing about something silly. I looked around at my home, at my friends, at the life I had reclaimed, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, complete and total peace. "You know what?" I said out loud. "I'm happy, actually, genuinely happy." "As you should be," Sister Ruth said, raising her glass. "To Loretta Caldwell, a woman who refused to be invisible." We toasted and I smiled, because I had learned the most important lesson of my 68 years. Your dignity is worth fighting for. Your home is worth protecting. And being alone is far better than being with people who make you feel small. I built this house with my husband. I defended it from those who tried to take it. And now, I was filling it with joy again, on my own terms. The wind chimes sang in the breeze, and I could almost hear Jerome saying, "I'm proud of you, Loretta. So proud." "I'm proud of me too," I whispered back. And I was. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.